Weekly jobless claims jumping to 231,000. That's the highest since August, and a potential sign this labor market is cooling off. But there are still more than 8 million available jobs in the United States. Many remain unfilled, even in the software development space and other technical sectors. So how do companies fill those jobs? Andela is filling that void, and their CEO and co-founder Jeremy Johnson joining us now from the NASDAQ. Jeremy, good to see you, my man. What brings you to the NASDAQ on this Thursday?
Hey, Dave. Good to be here. Thanks for having me. We're here to celebrate our 10-year anniversary as a company, actually. Andela is a global talent marketplace that helps companies use AI to find the world's best software developers. About 60% of our talent comes from untapped markets like Africa and Latin America. And we've been called by CNN, the startup is harder to get into than Harvard because we accept fewer than 1% of that technical talent that applies.
So you help companies both big and small hire from abroad. Now, to some, on the surface, it could sound like outsourcing. Describe your process, and is it or is it not?
I think outsourcing is an antiquated process. What people really want is to work with great talent who they feel like they trust and can depend on. Andela makes it really easy for them to find that talent, to understand who's going to be successful, but then also to deal with the back end things like compliance and payroll that make it challenging. So you don't need to work with outsourcing companies in a traditional sense. You can just build teams.
So just trying to be clear, are there enough, can they fill those roles? Is there enough talent in the United States or not?
Unfortunately, no, there isn't. You've got still close to zero unemployment in the technology space in the US, despite the fact that it's been a challenging year there, because that sector continues to grow faster than any other. And so it's a huge challenge for companies trying to fill these technical roles, which enable them then to grow to hire people in other areas.
Do you guys need immigration reform in order to bring more of those technical workers here to the US?
Immigration reform is a great idea, but realistically, what's happening right now is the world is moving towards borderless hiring. Increasingly, companies are saying, I actually don't really care what country someone happens to be in. I care about time zone, I care about skills, I care about language, but the country only matters from a logistics standpoint. And if someone else can deal with that for me, I just want the best talent possible. And that's what Andela makes happen for these companies.
Your website says those employees come at 30 to 50% less cost than hiring local. Why is that?
You know, it's usually a function of cost of living. The cost of living varies all over the world. You know, we're here in New York right now. It's a relatively expensive city. If you're hiring great talent in Buenos Aires or Lagos, Nigeria, the cost of living is different, and that usually comes with a difference in cost for compensation.
Okay, so for new hires, your company offers a 6-month training period, a MacBook, subsidized housing, 2 meals a day, but they also receive, and correct me if I'm wrong, just 1/3 of what those US companies are paying for the employee. Do I have that right? And where does the other 2/3 go?
Actually, the majority of that comes down to what is the marketplace rate for talent in that country. And so it varies from person to person. And so ultimately, you can see those numbers move around quite a bit on an individual basis. And ultimately, what those numbers go to is helping to build the product infrastructure and the AI backend that makes all of that possible.
The AI backend, you said the magic word. How is your company taking advantage of this boom in artificial intelligence?
Well, in 2 different ways. First, we have hundreds of thousands of software developers, product managers, like data engineers around the world. There's no human that could individually match them effectively. You need humans to oversee technology that is really bringing people together. 9 out of 10 companies that work with Andela say this was the exact right talent I needed for this role. Once you get to hundreds of thousands of people, it becomes really difficult for humans to do that on their own. On the other side of it, companies are coming to us all the time. In fact, the most common request is, can you help me with AI? And the first thing is, can you help me figure out what to do? It's a strategy question. What are other companies like me doing? And the second thing is, can you help me find talent that is familiar with AI that can help us, for instance, train large language models or build apps that leverage AI to reduce costs and improve the efficiency of that system.
What types of companies are you working with?
It ranges broadly. You've got companies like MasterCard and Goldman Sachs on one side, but also GitHub on the other. So you have some of the fastest growing technology companies in the world, as well as some of the most well-known brands. What's consistent is that they're all looking for great talent and increasingly aware that they need to think about the world as a hiring platform.
So you mentioned you're at the NASDAQ celebrating your 10-year anniversary. What's the next evolution for Andela, and what's the next decade look like?
The next decade looks like continuing to scale around the world. We represent talent now from 136 countries around the world. And you've got over 100,000 people that Andela has brought into software development who actually weren't software developers before. So the next decade looks like continuing to help reduce the friction that comes with global and borderless hiring until we see a world where people are able to build careers commensurate with their ability, where you're born doesn't define what you're capable of doing, and where companies understand that they can build teams. In fact, they will survive and thrive by building teams with global talent, and that is going to be a core part of their talent strategy. It's going to look very different, but I'm excited for it.
Indeed, no doubt about that. All right, congratulations. Happy 10-year anniversary. CEO and co-founder of Andela, Jeremy Johnson. Thank you so much.